Don, tell us what Cult of Chucky's about. Where's it pick up from the last one?
Well, it's about this doll, Sid. And, anyway, it picks up the story of Nika, played by Fiona in the last movie, who, at the end of Curse, she was left framed for Chucky's bloodbath that happened at the home of her sister. Well, actually, it was your home, but there's Danielle the studio. We picked her up on the way from Curse and Chucky. So Chucky has pinned all of this on poor Nika, and of course, no one believes Nika when she says that the doll did it. And so for 4 years, she's been in the loony bin, and after 4 years of electroshock therapy and drugs and hypnosis and whatnot, as you can see from the trailer, she has been convinced that Chucky was just a delusion, and that in fact she is a murderess. And she has to deal with all of the guilt that comes with that. Well, of course, we in the audience are like saying, "No, you were right the first time, honey. Don't trust that doll."
And then he's delivered, and all hell ensues.
And all in unrated glory, no less.
Yes. Yeah, this is definitely the goriest of all the movies. I've been saying that for a while. I think the first time I said that, Tony, was when we were at Monsterpalooza in April. And that's when we were, editing the film, and it was not a conscious thing. It was just like, as we were shooting, we're like, this is really gross. I was just kind of done, like, what does this say about us or me specifically? Because it's like for some reason this movie has very specific, a lot of trauma visited to the human head for some reason, which, and the face. So I don't know what, that probably has something to do with aging, I'm imagining, and just like looking in the mirror and seeing the rotting happening. And so it's like some metaphoric expression of that, I don't know. But it's definitely a thing in the movie. But there's some really great gore, and it seems to have gone over well. People who saw the movie in London concurred. Yes, this is the goriest of all the films.
So I shouldn't say this because I'm jinxing it, but we premiered in London, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and we've been reviewed by 25 plus venues and haven't gotten a single bad review.
It's such a relief.
It's really scary.
It's so scary because we hadn't seen the movie with an audience or anything before we went to London. So it's it's always terrifying to take your first public steps, and whatever's going to happen, it's so public. If it's like, I'm still licking my wounds over Seed of Chucky. 16 years later. I still get tweeted, like somebody tweeted me the other day, "Dude, Cult sounds great, but just to remind you, you did a shit job on Seed." Oh my God, can't you let it go? It's actually really good, right?
Yes. I've seen Chucky, it's awesome, I would be proud of it.
Anyway, so it's just a relief that people like it.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the familiar faces we're going to see in this new edition.
Well, this is I saw one critic describe this as the Fast Five of the Chucky franchise. I guess that's kind of true. But I don't, that stuff, I don't do it as mere fan service. And I love you guys, and I love fan service. I know, it sounds erotic, doesn't it? But it's not just that, because I really just, I start from the point of the characters, and I've been thinking about these characters for 30 years, and this is what I do in my free time. I wonder what would happen if Andy Barclay met Tiffany. That would be weird, and so that's a lot of what this movie is about, that, and our goal was not to just make that perfunctory. It was really to see what would happen if you took these characters and put them on a collision course and just see what combusts when you put them together. And I also just wanted to think about the reality of PTSD in a way, because even though obviously we're dealing with over-the-top supernatural situation, as a writer, my job is to, and as actors like Fiona, it's so important that we ground that and make it believable on a certain level. And so the mission is to wonder what would happen to a person who's been through this trauma. Even though, of course, the world won't believe the details, they've still been through this trauma. What does that do to a person? Anyway. We try to do that. I was depressed when I wrote it, so it's like everybody like at one point or another, everyone is driven to tears at some point in the movie, which is another thing I noticed when when we were making the movie. It's like, oh shit, I have to make Fiona cry again today.
Again and again and again and again. You like leave my character when I'm not in a great place, and then we come back to me 4 years later, and it's even worse. She's just like.
Does it ever feel like I'm being sadistic? Did you resent me? Because it's like that's like one of the great things about working with actors over and over again is that you get to know them as artists, you get to know them as people, and it's fun to like write and tailor a role to someone specifically, which now I've had the privilege of doing with Fiona a couple of times, and I've done with Jennifer Tilly and Brad Dourif for 30 years. These are great actors, and so it's a lot of fun for me to do that, but then there are times it makes me feel like an asshole. Because I know Fiona, and I know what she's been through in her life, and I know what it's going to take to get those tears. It's like...
There was this, a couple moments on set, one specifically where I'm receiving really awful news, and Don, I spend a lot of my time with him, we're actually really close friends, and he's coming up to me and he's looking at me, he's like, cry! I need you to cry more! And so like make yourself do that in a grounded way. You're actually like trying to make yourself in pain. It's just like get out, like fuck you.
And she would literally say that to me. She would just say that. Like, okay. She goes, I have to like give me a second. I have to prepare. And she's over in the corner going, fuck.
And you can hear me on the mic. God, there's probably some kind of digital evidence of that.
But it is. Oh yes. But it is, like, as a director, I feel it's such a privilege to, I get to take that stuff for granted. It's similar to how I get to take Tony's talents for granted in a way that what goes into making Chucky give a performance is very complicated and time-consuming. And a lot of it is about breaking down emotion into kind of behavioral archetypes.
Just a visual for...
Yeah, but Tony gives me the privilege of just directing Chucky as if he's another actor. So even though there are 5 of 6 of them under Tony's, command, I talk to Tony and I say, Chucky, do this, or Chucky, do that. And I don't necessarily have to wonder about who's going to be lifting the left eyebrow.
Yeah, that's where it goes to me, and I have to break it down to the people and then to the actual nuts and bolts of the performance. And sometimes it's all about the timing, because like Don said, it's all shot in pieces. So if we want to get a certain emotion across or a certain attitude towards somebody, there's an eye line involved, but the eye line isn't just turning a puppet. The head moves by one person, the eyes move with somebody else, the eyelids are part of that. The body posture is changing, that's somebody else. So I kind of break down the body performance to a group of people, and then we perform that on set. And Don yells cry, and we cry. And do it again.
We all cry together.
Yeah,
Let's be clear.
it's very collaborative.
We cry together. But one of the things about making a Chucky movie is that at some point or another, it all devolves into a nightmare about eye lines.
Yeah.
So like if you're shooting, like if you think like cinematically, what is like theoretically the easiest stuff to shoot is like a conversation between 2 people, and I break it down into different shots. And so I'll do, say, Fiona's close up like this, and if, say I'm Chucky, and Chucky's close up like this. Now, if this is a human being, I can just rely without thinking about it that that person is actually going to be looking at Fiona in the eye. But that has to be simulated. And it's so complicated. It's like you're looking at it through the viewfinder, or then you're looking at it in the monitor. Is he looking right at her? I don't know. I think he might be just like a hair too far left. In something that small, the whole illusion will break down and the scene will work. So it really is it's about minutia, and it really does take a village to make it happen.
Kill somebody.
It's also surprising working with a puppet, like how close different emotions are, and when looking at a face, like Chucky will go from looking totally constipated to like to fear, and it's just Tony doing some like magical thing with a cheekbone or something. But it was interesting to look at the human doll face and in that way and see like the different expressions.
The nice thing though is that Brad's performance drives what we do. We're trying to support that. So we have sort of like this skeleton to hang what we're doing on top of, which is really nice. But when that's broken down and we're out of a dialogue scene, it really is, it's pieces. And Lila Tava, who does the eyeball movement, he's never on set. He's always standing behind the camera because the eye line is so crucial. So he's literally behind the cameraman, and then we have 2 or 3 people on radios that are on monitors so that they can perform the face, and then everybody doing the body is either right behind it or below it, and they can't see what they're doing at all. So it's a lot of communication between a small group just to make things happen. The goal is that you buy it and you believe it's simple, so hopefully we've done our job.
He also looks like an octopus when you're working with him. You have to like step over all of these green people in green suits that are like under him, you know? And he has like cables everywhere. He gets 1 million takes, and you get like only a few. But it's like, yeah, it's amazing. But he becomes this, and it's, to Tony's credit, it becomes this figure that has emotion, and you're talking to him and he talks back, and he sounds like my dad. It's like the weirdest thing in the world. It never got used to it. But anyway, yeah, I think the making of, I think it's a really cool, interesting, weird, surreal thing to watch the doll act. Yeah, it's really cool. I hope everybody gets to see
One
it
of
at
the
some
things
point.
I thought you were about to say is that like the making of this movie was really surreal. I mean, it's always a little surreal making a movie, but because we were shooting in the tundra, basically, and it was 40 below, and in the middle of blizzards. So we had like 5 nights of shooting in that. Where there's like orientation at the top of it, where our AD is like saying, okay, we have to have the buddy system because like sometimes this kind of like weird maniac can take over. People will just like wander off by themselves, and it's like, holy shit, this sounds really scary. So there's that, but then also on set, the location is the mental hospital, and I didn't want to shoot in a real mental hospital. First of all, puppet movies, it's next to impossible to do that without having the control that you need on the set. But I also like to creatively kind of be very stylized, and there was really no mental hospital in reality that could match what I wanted to do. Because although it sounds a little corny, in a way, the space of it, this hospital with these long corridors were meant to evoke Nika's mind, because the movie is kind of a mind fuck, or that's what it's intended to be. When people ask what is distinct about this movie as opposed to all the other Chucky movies, what we try to do each time is to reinvent it through a different genre prism. And we've never done the mindfuck movie before, where all of the characters, their relationships to reality is all questioned because they're all insane, they're all on drugs, they're under hypnosis, whatever it is. So the movie is designed to make the viewer question their reality in the way that Nika is doing herself. So we're up in the frozen tundra in the middle of winter shooting this, and on the set is meant to be like a maze, and so we would often just get lost in the maze. We'd just like be walking to set, oh, that's the wrong corridor.
Everything's white.
And everything was white, so I had the weird feeling of being like, it felt like Inception to me, like being sometimes trapped in my own head, because because the set was a literalization of something that I had in my mind, which is something you do in movies generally, but for some reason this one, that whole feeling was heightened because that's what the movie itself was about.
Let's talk about the movie's other major special effect, Jennifer Tilly. Okay. Are we going to see more or less of her in this one?
More of Jen in this one than in Curse of Chucky. Obviously, she just had like just two brief scenes in Curse of Chucky. I don't know. I love Jennifer. I love the character of Tiffany. And again, I just thought it would be really interesting. What would happen if Nika and Tiffany met? I mean, creatively, that posed an interesting challenge to me because they occupy different parts of the franchise. I mean, Fiona and the character of Nika it's not naturalistic, but there is something about her and the way she's written and performed, our intention anyway, is that she touches the ground and that she like really kind of grounds the whole thing. Whereas Jennifer, as Tiffany, is completely larger than life. So creatively, I'm just like wondering, how will those two different colors go together? I instinctively knew that if we did that right, that would be interesting in and of itself. I just kept thinking it was kind of like Reese's peanut butter cups. You know, two great tastes that are even greater together. That was the intention anyway. So yeah, she is a special effect because she brings a very specific tone, and part of the challenge was to marry that tone with the rest of the movie, which is meant to be, so I hesitate to use the word straightforward, but that's the best I can do. I'm a writer. That's the best I can do, it's straightforward. You know, it's meant to be legitimately disturbing anyway, but at the same time, you've got a doll that's possessed by Brad Dourif, who was married to Jennifer Tilly.
Who is my dad?
Who is her dad?
Tony, do we get to see Chucky do anything different in this film?
I don't know that I'm allowed to talk about it, but the answer would be yes.
Big time. I mean, Chucky.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I credit the writer, director, with kind of with a bunch of weird shit, and we got to figure out how to pull it off. But we got to do some things we've never done before, and you're going to see aspects of the character that you've never seen before as well. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by his issues and how those are resolved. But yeah,
We always give it.
he's a busy guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of the things that I like to think is makes our franchise special is we really do look at Chucky's character in every movie.
Yeah.
Just sort of like I mean, 30 years on, I mean, we've thought about his romantic life, his.
His
You know,
sex
we
life,
know this
actually.
guy really well at this point, but you only think you do.
Yeah, it gets a little more complicated,
Yes.
this one, and I think that's what refreshes this and opens the door in so many directions
Yes.
for the future. And everybody said, you're on 7, how does this keep going? And I feel like
You'll see.
the characters keep it going and they're engaging, and it's like taking, like Don said, grounded people and putting them into this unrealistic situation, and how would they cope with it, and how would you cope with it? And then Don, in this one, has managed to take that and make it fresh, and then turn it upside down in a way that you'll have to wait and see, but I think you all really enjoy
That
it.
sounds tantalizing, Tammy.
You should
I
go
want
see
to see that
it.
movie.
It's really good.
I feel like you're either gonna love it or hate it.
What?
That's what I think. I'm
I
serious.
cannot believe you just said that.
I
She did
think
not
it's
say
true.
that. You're gonna love it.
Especially after London, where nobody hated it.
Yeah.
We have only gotten great reviews.
those
Don't listen to
reviews?
this one.
I was 6. My babysitter was murdered.
And they never caught him?
Justice was done.
Wanna play?
Nika, the murders were real.
Chucky never was.
That's right. He was a fantasy, a delusion.
Are you feeling better now?
I don't blame you for being afraid. I was very ill. Chucky told me. He's coming for you.
It's important that we all explore it together as a group. I think I have something that will help. Whoa!
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
First, he'll kill each and every one of you in the most horrible ways you can imagine. And then he'll kill me too.
Come to mommy. Oh, come.
Are you afraid of the truth?
Terrified. You should be too.
Night night. And they call me sick?
Wait a minute, there's 2 of them?
He'll kill us all!
A true classic never goes out of style.